We bring in Jason McCourty and Jordan Babineau from the Tennessee Titans. Jason, great to come in after a win. What a wild one that was yesterday in Buffalo. Holy cow.
Man, you said it. A one-point game. Went all the way down to the last second. Nate Washington with a huge catch. Offense played well all day. For us on the defensive side of the ball, I can't say the same, but we came up with 3 big stops in the fourth quarter to give ourselves a chance to win the game. And like I say every week, it's easier to correct those mistakes after a win.
Well, and Jordan, I want to bring you in on this too. Both you and Jason making some big plays on those stops. It's always a tough test, I'm sure, for any athlete when you're not having a lot of success, but you got to stay with it. That was a great test of perseverance there, because when the game was on the line, you guys were able to rise up and get the key stops.
That's one of the things about playing in this league, is that you're always going to get another opportunity to correct and put yourself in a position to win the game. You know, there's highs and lows of the game. You can't get too high on the highs and too lows on the lows. And the one thing I know about playing in this league for a long time is that there will be another opportunity to redeem yourself. Fortunately for us, it came in the fourth quarter, the last drive, when Buffalo needed 3 points to go down and win the field goal with only 30, 40 seconds left, and defense really stood up.
And both of you guys, as we mentioned, made big plays. Jason, you get the interception to set up the game-winning drive, and Jordan, the blitz on the final play there to really put the heat on the quarterback. First, let's talk about your interception, Jason. It's third down, and some good pressure on the passer helps. And I'm still not I looked at the play a couple times. I'm not exactly sure what Ryan Fitzpatrick is seeing, but an opportunistic play by you.
Yeah, and Derek Morgan came off the end, and it created a lot of pressure for him, and throwing into the wind probably forced a little bit of a bad throw, and the only thing I had to do was hold on to it, so I had the easy job on the play. But I think early on in the game, we played cover 2. I think he saw on the other side, Vern jumped on an out route that they threw to Stevie Johnson on third down. And I think from that play, they kind of thought that they were going to have that whole shot in cover 2 open later in the game. And I think they chose that time to go back to it. And he a little bit predetermined where he was going to throw the ball before the snap. And lucky for us and for myself, we were able to get it thrown right into my hands. And the offense took the ball and did the rest.
And Jordan, on the fourth down, you guys were able to tackle them in bounds a couple of times. They're short of the first down. They had to burn a timeout. And so you guys decided to put pressure on them, even though it was just 4th and 2. It's kind of a risky play, but you were able to get to the quarterback pretty clean.
Yeah, we were playing some cover 2 throughout the game, and you know, Fitzpatrick and I were kind of playing a little game of cat and mouse of when I could go over to the strong side and kind of be aggressive and still in some of the strong route concepts that they came back to the weak side of the field, which kind of threatened my zone. The fourth down, you know, Coach dialed the blitz up, and we knew with their protection that we would have an opportunity to hit the quarterback. It worked out well.
Guys, I guess it's not how you start, but how you finish, right? I mean, you talk about a defense. They hadn't had I think the Bills had not had a punt the entire game until their last 3 possessions, and then you guys came up big.
Yeah, not only how you start, how you maintain. We started bad and maintained the bad play throughout the game, and came up big literally in the last 3 drives of the game to come up with stops. And like you said, though, we came up, I guess, when it mattered most. It's just a little disappointing as a defense to go out and put that type of effort forward against a pretty good Bills offense with the weapons that they have. So for us, it's just a matter of we watch the tape today and correcting some of those mistakes and making sure this upcoming week we do a better job of tackling for one.
You brought up Derek Morgan just a minute ago. Talk about the play of both Cameron Wembley and Derek Morgan, because early on in the season, everybody was talking about, you know, you guys got to get more pressure to the quarterback. There's got to be a rush to help you guys in the secondary. That seems to be happening here. What's going on? Derek Morgan especially. I mean, he's been criticized. He's a former first-round pick. But he has really been playing well of late.
It's been really good to see him come on. You know, he dealt with some adversity himself, as you said, being really, really critiqued about his performance early in his first couple years. I think that with the addition of Keith Millard, man, I tell you, the front 4 have really been creating some pass rush lanes and getting hits on the quarterback. You know, and now to see that those hits and those responsibilities, those efforts and the things that they've put in during the OTAs, the things that they've learned are starting to pay off, and it'll only get better. I mean, these guys are getting better every week. You know, I'll continue to say it. The Tennessee Titans will continue to win football games as long as they win the turnover ratio.
And I want to ask you guys this because I'm not trying to get you guys to make excuses at all, but I want to illustrate what happens when you play teams. I mean, these guys aren't dumb. I mean, Chan Gailey's a good offensive mind. They see the weaknesses. Zach Dials is already subbing for Colin McCarthy, who's a really good player. Zach Dials gets hurt early in the first quarter, and you guys are really trying to jerry-rig things to get anything from linebackers. How much does that hurt you as you try to adjust when you know the other team is also trying to exploit that?
Well, I mean, for instance, in that game Sunday, we had 4 different middle linebackers in. Well, 3 different middle linebackers, but counting Colin being out. So that doesn't typically happen in a game, and it's just tough just for the fact that a lot of times through the games, the defensive coordinator, Coach Gray, communicates with our Mike linebacker through the headset that's in his helmet. And once Dials went down and then Spoon was in, but he had a hamstring that was hurting him the entire game, Tim Shaw comes in at the Mike linebacker, and he doesn't have a headpiece in his helmet. So Tim Shaw's running to the sideline, getting the call, running back in the huddle, giving a call to us. So it was a little frantic for us a little bit on defense, but like you started off, definitely not an excuse. That had nothing to do with once the ball was snapped, us making tackles and making our right fits. But that's what this league's about. Every week there's going to be injuries that happen before the game, and then throughout the course of the game there's going to be injuries. And that's why you prepare backups all week, and very proud of the guys that stepped in place of Colin and Zach and Spoon. Tim coming in, and all those guys played well and played good enough for us to get the win.
Jordan, I want to ask you about one of the guys. You were talking about the pass rush and what Coach Millard has done. One of those young guys, a rookie this season, but he's getting a lot more playing time. And I'm starting to really notice what he's doing out there. He's got a high motor. But just talk about the play of Mike Martin.
Yeah, I knew exactly where you're going with that.
The Hawk.
The Hawk is what they call him, man. Mike is a guy who you're going to love to see to continue to grow in his defense. You're going to love to see him mature as an NFL player. You know, he's been a great addition, and personally, I've been real impressed with the way he's come on and been able to contribute to the amount of success that we've had on defense.
I want to ask both of you this, because it's intriguing, and I don't think we understand the dynamic. You guys would, because you're players. The last 2 weeks, Chris Palmer has moved up to the coach's box, okay? So he's gone from the sidelines to upstairs. You guys are 2-0 in that. I'm not saying that's the reason. But today at the press conference, it was asked, hey, have you considered maybe Jerry Gray? And Mike Munchak said that's up to Jerry Gray. If that's something he's comfortable with, then Jerry Gray, if he wants to move up there, he will. So as players, what is that dynamic? Do you need the coach on the sidelines or don't you? I mean, you guys take us through that.
To me, I would agree with Coach Munchak. It's more or less up to those guys that are calling the plays. I guess Coach Palmer would probably tell you that maybe he's seeing the game from a different angle, being upstairs, and maybe that's helped him with his play calling. For us as players, I mean, you see all those coaches on the sideline with those headsets. They're communicating the whole game. For us in the secondary, we have 2 DB coaches. One's on the sideline and then one's up in the booth. And there's a phone he can call down and talk to you throughout the game if he needs to. And then he's communicating with the other coaches, getting his message across, what he feels needs to be said to us as players. So as far as a communication standpoint, it's not a matter of a need of a coach on the sideline. It's, I think, more or less where they feel more comfortable making the play calls from.
I think you said it best, J-Mac. We'd be spending a lot more time on that phone if Jerry went up to the booth.
So you'd rather see him on the sidelines, or you'd have to spend a lot of time on the phone.
That's for sure.
Well, in fact, they were showing.
I mean, when he calls down there, how do they get who's in charge of? Hey, I want to speak to McCourty.
Who has to answer the phone?
Get me McCourty on the
and
phone.
then get the player.
There's a guy who's responsible for when that phone rings. Oh yes, someone's designated on the other end to go get the guy who particular that coach want to speak with.
Well, they kept showing Dave Wannstedt for Buffalo up in the booth on television yesterday. So I was just curious, what's the player's perspective? I know you didn't see it, Jordan, but we were laughing about it before you guys got here, and Jason, of course, has been told about it. But during the broadcast, they put up a picture of Devin and Devin and said, I think it was it Rich Gannon was
Rich
doing
Gannon,
the color?
yeah.
Okay, so
And
he asked
Marv
Rich
Albert,
Gannon, and
yeah.
Marv Albert asked Rich Gannon, so which one is Jason McCourty? And he was like, the guy on the right. He's like, that's incorrect. That's Devin. He's like, well, the guy on the left. He's like, that's incorrect. That's Devin. So they put up 2 pictures of Devin, and then, of course, they put the picture of Jason and Devin. And Jason, you said there was a time, like today, you feel like people Like, I felt like I knew that wasn't you up on the screen, but you said there was a time and a day when people could not tell you guys apart.
I can't. If I look back on a picture of us as kids, from infants probably up until we're probably like 10, I can't tell. I have to take the picture to my mom and ask her which one's which. For her, it was easy, but for us, looking back, we can't even tell the difference.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk more football with these guys. We're going to have a little fun a little later in the show. The Nolensville Panthers are going to ask some questions to these guys. Our Swiftwick Sox Little League Team of the Week. Also later in the show, some fun questions, 4-question style questions for these guys, talking Titans football here at Wild Wing Cafe here in Cool Springs. We're here every Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Stay tuned. You're listening to Sports Night, presented by Baptist Sports Medicine on 102.5 The Game.